Hello and welcome to another episode of Tech About Town, brought to you by Communitech and Elevate IP. I'm Alex Kinsella.
And I'm Mohammed Kamla.
Mohammed, you are our new guest host today. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very, very much.
Our cramped studio. We're in the midst of renovations. I don't know if you saw, there's a bunch of tables sitting outside. We're trying to figure this space out and make it a little bit better. But what do you think about the space in general?
I really like the space. This is my first experience as co-hosting a podcast. So this is very, very interesting. It's a bit tight for sure, but I love it. I think it's a little bit more cozy.
And today our guest is coming in virtual. So that was a fun technical thing to do. We usually like to have people in town, but our guest is in Montreal and we did not want to make her or ask her to fly in for this.
I totally understand that. And I think this is a new world. So the more comfortable we are with tech and including people from different parts of the world, the more successful we would be, I believe.
And she has been here. So she did participate in Fierce Founders.
Oh, that's amazing.
In town. Pretty sure it was Fierce Founders. If it wasn't, I made a mistake. And I should double check that next time before I do it. I want to ask you about your iced coffee. Is that from the iced coffee?
Yeah, this is from the cool... the coffee machine that Communitech got. I made a double espresso shot, put some flavors in it, and some cold milk to turn my hot coffee into cold coffee.
Oh, see, I thought you were doing like the iced coffee from the little iced coffee station.
Well, I'm slightly more of a coffee connoisseur, so I kind of play with it a little bit. I made my own espresso shots.
So you don't have to wait for Wednesdays in the summer to have
iced
coffee. You can have iced coffee whenever you want.
Yes,
That's
I can.
I never thought about doing that. I was at the library yesterday having coffee with a friend, and she just brought her own cup, which is good because that's actually going to tie into sustainability in our conversation today. And yeah, she got her coffee and then poured half of it out and asked for ice. And I was like, you could have probably just like done that ahead of time and just said, hey.
This is my first iced coffee that I made. I've always had hot coffee in the morning. Today, when I was walking to work at Communitech, it was just very hot. I was like, I don't want to have a hot coffee. I need to have something cold. So I turned my coffee into a cold coffee.
Yeah, I've had probably about 6 cups of coffee today, which is more than I should have. And the funny thing is last night I was reading an article about how bad that amount of coffee is to have. Increases cortisol levels, causes fogginess, all those kind of things. So I woke up this morning and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have 2 cups and it's going to be a great day. Mm-hmm. And then, 6 cups in, I'm like, I forgot that I was going to do that.
I understand that. I'm also guilty of that. I was studying engineering at Waterloo, and I would pretty much have coffee all day. Yeah. Was a poor student, so I couldn't afford a lot of food. So I used black coffee as a way to quench my hunger, too, at one point.
Just do it.
So got to do what you got to do, man.
What's very strange is before the podcast, I was talking to someone about coffee and how much coffee I had had. They have mushroom coffee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Mushroom coffee. Yeah. I've never heard of that. Tell me more.
I asked them about it, and they basically grind mushrooms up as part of the process. But it's I don't think it actually has caffeine in it. I think it's just a healthy alternative, but can still I guess feed that.
I'm going to check this up. I have never heard of mushroom coffee. I'm going to find it out. That would be amazing.
I'll ask you. The reason I bring up mushroom coffee, because it's my ultimate segue into our conversation today. Today, we're trading silicon for shiitake with Stephanie Lipp, co-founder of MycoFutures. The biomaterial startup is turning mushroom mycelium into a fully biodegradable alternative to leather. Think handbags that's brought from a lab, not a feedlot. Stephanie and her partner, Leo Gillis, grow mushroom sheets that rival leather for strength and feel while slashing water, energy, and chemical use. Stephanie's joining us today live from Montreal to talk about MycoFutures, how it got started, and how they're working to break through the barriers on its road to commercialization. Welcome, Stephanie.
Stephanie, I was actually looking up at your profile. So you went from arts to photography to growing mushrooms and building and creating leather. What happened? How did that light bulb moment, or what was that light bulb moment for you that you're like, this is what I want to do? So I would love to know your journey a little bit.
Absolutely. And I mean, what I've been saying to people lately, because I do even now get that question of how did this happen? And I ask myself that almost every day. But I can definitely say that nothing in the past 5 years could have been predicted. And if someone had even offered me $1 million to predict even one thing, I would not have $1 million, because it's truly been a wildly wonderful and surprising experience. But where it all started really was my co-founder Leo, who's also my partner, and I, we moved from Mississauga to rural Newfoundland to start a gourmet mushroom farm. I had been working in nonprofit housing, which was a great learning experience, but also very challenging. And that was also after working for many years as a photographer, retoucher, graphic designer. So I always had a bit of an entrepreneurial streak. Was working for myself, but then found myself in this full-time job. And Leo was working material handling and driving forklift, but we just wanted a new adventure, and to try something new. So we decided on this town in rural Newfoundland after we had visited Leo's hometown in the west coast of Newfoundland, where he was born, but only lived till he was about 4 or 5. And he also grew up in the GTA. But we visited where his grandparents had retired back, and saw that it was really beautiful, very, very affordable. And then I literally Googled moving to Newfoundland, thinking someone had written a blog about making the trek. And this is before the mass migrations of the COVID times to the East Coast. This really hadn't been done too often. And so we didn't find the blog, but we discovered a bunch of articles about a town called Bonavista, which was experiencing an entrepreneurial renaissance after the cod moratorium of the 90s had really shut down the economies of most of the rural outport towns that relied on the cod and fishing industry. But this town was getting back on its feet and attracting all kinds of young people and entrepreneurs, and was becoming quite vibrant. And so we found a house that we could afford, moved there, and knew that we needed to have our own business because there wasn't a lot of employment there. And also, we wanted to contribute to our new community, our town of 4,000 people, plus the influx of tourists that came every summer for the whales and puffins and icebergs. And so we landed on mushrooms because that was something that Leo had already had an interest in. It was a way to feed people. There was a lot of food insecurity on the island, and we really started to see how it could be a solution for a lot of problems, but food being the number one. And so we made the move. We had a delivery service throughout the pandemic, started a weekly going to work weekly farmers market, and that without all of that happening, we've never got to the day when Leo was cleaning out the mushroom room, as you do periodically, and there were some bags that had colonized, so the root system had grown in the fruiting bag, but the mushroom part didn't actually grow, which happens. And so he wanted to just spread them on the lawn for compost, but he didn't want these big lumps, so he just thought he'd break them up with a shovel, and that didn't work. So he tried an axe with a little bit more force, and that also didn't do anything. And so, out of sheer frustration, he hit them with our lawnmower, thinking it would slice them to ribbons, but it actually broke our lawnmower, and
Wow.
it never started again. So that was kind of the famous lawnmower incident that made us realize that we had a strain of fungi with really special properties.
Oh wow.
And during this time, we had been researching all kinds of fungi innovation, and we knew that there were other companies making alternatives to leather. And so we never really thought that we would put our hat in the ring, but we were in a pre-accelerator at the time out of St. John's, who had only recently gone virtual. And our advisor at the time, asked us to consider materials because we had been looking at nutraceuticals and health supplements, and that was a really saturated and hard to break in market, especially in a place as limited where in terms of land as our town. So Leo did some experiments, and in 3 months he had our first product prototype, and we had gotten accepted to a pitch competition, which I'd never done before, and we ended up winning the pitch competition. So we had a bit of capital, a little bit of confidence, and we started talking to customers, and I was shocked at how many customers wanted to talk to me and wanted this material and made known about it as well, but they couldn't get it. So it was really, yeah, that light bulb moment that we can do something, people want it, it's a new frontier, and we can make a really big impact doing it. So all these things kind of converged, luckily around the same time at the end of 2021, and set us on a completely different path.
Wow, you had a penicillin moment where, the scientist was kind of just,
I was trying to think of an example of like
Yeah.
that accidental discovery that seems like you don't think it's going to happen, right? Like the whole lawnmower thing of just like, this is really tough. The axe isn't working. I'm going to get the lawnmower. I would do that. I don't know if I'd have the foresight to go, this is something special though. I'd be like, This is just a pain in my ass.
I'm just glad that this was like a frustration first, and then it turned into a business. And she's like, "Oh, that this material has properties."
Well, and I was gonna say, like, the thing that, and I've heard the story a few times now, and what still shocks me is I would never think of mushroom or mycelium as a textile, right? Because I think when I think of mushrooms, I think of something very squishy, right, or that you dice up and you put in a nice spaghetti sauce. But I would never go. I never think about the root network of it and how extensive like root networks are for fungi.
Yeah, it's completely fascinating. It's consumed us truly over the last few years. Um, you know, for lack of a better term, when you really go beneath the surface and understand these root systems and how they're responsible for forests, for crops, for so much around us, and that you can actually take that concept and that organism and then, through bioengineering and environmental controls, turn it into something completely different is really fascinating, but also shows the power of regenerative systems and how they can really, serve us and serve a greater purpose.
So with that, like as that transition from 21 to today, I assume you've had a number of challenges getting to market. What would you say is the one that kind of stands out for you right now as hopefully one that you've surpassed, but a challenge that maybe is unique to in bringing a mycelium based textile to market?
Yes, I only laugh to not cry. I mean, it's been all challenges because as I said, we really didn't know anything about startup land. We didn't know anything about scaled vertical farming, about manufacturing, about the inner workings of supply chain of the fashion industry, and something that's really fun and exciting to talk about, but also has been a source of potentially shortening our lifespan through stress is that we're just at the intersection of all these different things, and there's experts in all of these things. We're not reinventing anything, but we are putting them together in a way that really hasn't been seen. So that just lends itself to challenges, which makes the chase all the more rewarding. But um, I would say the biggest challenge is really that we have overcome is finding the space to do this, because doing it on a bench scale, or and in our friend's basement scale, is completely different from where we are today of like having 180 trays in our 2,000 square foot slice of our factory. So being able to do it repeatedly, with precision to get a consistent result, that has and that part has been continued to be a challenge. But yeah, just showing that we can do it bigger than a science project has been a really, really hard thing, because well, yeah, we'll get into in later.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I mean, technology, like building a startup is hard. Building a hardware startup is really hard. Farming is really hard, and you're combining all three into one glorious challenge.
Yeah, as soon as you grow things, and I've definitely said this about mushrooms before, that they'll grow literally anywhere. I mean, in Chernobyl, there's mushrooms clinging to the metal and feeding off of radiation. If you leave something on the counter one day too long, the mycelium's growing. But as soon as you bring them indoors and you want them to do something specific, they become very fussy about literally everything. And so Leo has been really good about treating, his mycelium like his child, his children, his vast army of children, and really understanding what they need and what they want to try to make the process easier. But yeah, growing things is just so unpredictable, because literally nothing in the universe grows the exact same way every single time naturally. That's not the beauty of nature.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I was looking at the article that Beta Kid posted, and you have this amazing bag that you created. And then are you guys selling it online through your own channels, or do you have like distribution set up? Like I'm just curious to know like how you're going to market.
Mhm. So we are primarily a B2B supplier of materials, and again, a very unexpected, incredible experience we've had being supported by SRTX, the makers of SheerTex, coming to Montreal, did allow us to launch a customer facing product. So that was our first B2C sales, um, that was kind of created in a not as typical sales process, because Catherine Helmuth really understood what we needed as a young materials company in terms of B2B and B2C traction. And getting sales from the public. So we've stopped that pre-sale for now. We're just working on delivering the material for that. But our next planned launch is through the designer of this bag that I've had for a couple years now, but she's based in Vienna, and we're invited to speak at the um, Pilzfestspiele, which is the mushroom festival in Vienna. And so we're hoping to coordinate a launch of products so that we can sell them there, but also get stockists in Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and anywhere else that really wants to sell them, because people have loved this design and people have really wanted to buy this over the last couple of years that I've been showing it off. And now we're getting to the point of having enough material to be able to deliver on that.
That makes sense. I mean, there are two markets, B2B and B2C for sure. B2B might be a bigger average contract value. B2C would be a bit smaller, and there's more effort that needs to go into B2C. So right now, your primary focus is B2B, correct?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. For lots of people have asked us if we were selling our own products. And as much as I love fashion design and, that's my background, I think doing B2C is so much more about building a brand, building channels, getting customers. And I just don't know if I'm cool enough to do that yet. And it's two just very different um, businesses. But one of our other channels that we're looking at is co-branded white labeling. So a lot of companies have come to us that want to sell a makeup bag or a pencil case with that goes along with their own product lines, and they don't have the supply chain to necessarily manufacture soft goods because they're in skincare. And so we're already working on phase one evaluation and prototyping with an international factory group so that we can make these large product runs, but as a B2B product to another company that's selling it to their company customers. So that's another really exciting way to reach wider customers, make a little bit more on the markup of a finished product, but without, just from my previous entrepreneurial background, I just don't want to sell things one by one. Like that's very daunting. And I'd rather sell, obviously 500 or 1,000 of something at a time.
I totally agree with you. I just want to highlight the fact that you're a photographer turned entrepreneur, growing mushrooms, building leather, or growing leather. I think you're cool enough to build a B2C if you choose to. So when you're going out and selling this your product, mushroom leather, to luxury fashion houses, what are some of the objections that you experience, and what are you doing to counter them?
I think the biggest thing, and this has really been super helpful, I mean, customer discovery, I cannot emphasize how important it is to really talk with the decision makers. Um, about what their needs are, not about your own product, but what they want. As that we've learned that having lab-based mechanical testing and the commercial level manufacturing testing results is so important. People talk about leather as if it's a monolith, but there's so many grades of leather, styles, finishes that you can't describe it in one way. But people that work with materials do understand it because it's an ubiquitous material. It's been talked about and worked with, and people have this deep familiarity with it. So the best way to help people understand what our material is by having those numbers in terms of tensile strength, elasticity, but also making prototypes and testing those prototypes so that they can anticipate the performance and the behavior of the material. And so as much as it's cool to show people sheets or even a prototype, until they kind of understand it kind of on a data level and on a tactile level, it is hard to sell it. And it's really understandable because, especially in the fashion industry, margins are so tight. The economy directly ties into the economy of the fashion industry. So we need to make it as easy, frictionless adoption for them. And so, really having that kind of quantitative and qualitative data for them about the material is important, and then also showing that we have the price point and the scale of it, because everyone tries to start with a small collection, a pilot, a capsule, but we can't build a business unless we can go past that, and
Mhm.
that means having the price that's feasible and the sheer quantities to make a typical product run.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with respect to the scalability aspect, that you need to be scalable to grow your business. Um, so I understand the technical aspects or the technical questions that these luxury brands are asking. Isn't the sustainability narrative helping you sell this? Or is there interest from that angle? Can you sell it through that angle?
Yeah, I think in theory there is interest in sustainability, and there is, a lot of great legislation and activism and lobbying around extended producer responsibility, digital passports, sheer transparency, anti-greenwashing. And I think that brands are doing their best to participate and engaged in the appropriate ways. But at the end of the day, sustainability does not sell anything. It really is dollars and cents. But I do think the sustainability piece gets us in the door. And, we're getting better and better about framing how sustainability supports their actual business on the dollars and cents level. Especially with all this legislation coming in and the need to have transparency. And we can offer that because it's completely baked into our values, our vision, how we picture the future of manufacturing and consumption. Um, but none of that is relevant if we can't sell it, and the selling it is with the price point and supply. So it's very much entwined, and it's something that we are constantly trying to communicate really well, have a lot of data, have a lot of written policies. We have a really robust sustainability strategy, but those are really kind of the icing on the cake, not the selling point yet, unfortunately.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you about is on the IP side of things. So with a product like this, there's obviously a process to take the mycelium into the actual textile, from growing, production, distribution, everything in that cycle. How do you approach IP as someone who, took that path from photographer to mushroom grower to a startup founder? Was IP part of the thought process when you were first getting started, your first kind of pitch competitions and things like that? Or where did that start coming into the conversation? And where are you in that journey?
Mhm. Yeah, IP was something we thought about from the start because when we started that pre-accelerator, again, I didn't really realize it was for startups. I just wanted to learn about business that we didn't know about. So it was addressed early on. And I think we started this process kind of at the end of the time where the messaging was you have to have a patent or else you're uninvestable. And we kind of got that maybe for the first few months up to a year, but then realized that IP is much more nuanced than that. That there's different kinds of IP beyond patents, and we were able to talk to lots of really big brands about our strategy and what the best course of. And what we've really chosen is to maintain our trade secrets because of the couple other companies out there who did rush to patent. And I think by us adding to that would actually only make it easier for anyone else to make their way through the patents and, kind of show it's almost like process of elimination. You're like, well, we can't do that, then that, but there's other ways to, maybe overcome these things. So we actually maintain our moat by maintaining trade secrets. And that's also we're able to lean into a competitive advantage that way because we own our entire tech stack, from the strain selection, development, the substrates, the growing process, the harvesting, the finishing. The point of differentiation for us has been that we own our entire tech stack, and other direct competitors have outsourced different parts of the process. And that actually led to the downfall of one of our direct competitors because they couldn't have consistent, affordable feedstock for their substrate, which is like the very foundation of the whole process. And so, yeah, we've really developed different areas of intellectual property. And as we grow and start automating, there are patentable areas and other IP generation when we start building our plant and automating. And our vision for that is to have a package that we can either license out JV or just, you know, duplicate in other places to create circular economies close to where the manufacturing centers are.
Do you see this as one day being a lycra, a spandex? Like, is there a brand in the future where it's as ubiquitous as other artificial and natural fabrics?
Yes, that's definitely in our plan for how to reach, ultimate scale, become a branded material. Also, control the narrative, support our customers and how to talk about our material, how to market it, and to really be a brand and a symbol of transparency and data and innovation. Because I think it is really important. To take on that responsibility as a brand and material to communicate really well, to show the inner workings of it. And that's, I think, the best way to, maintain your brand, maintain your moat, and trust. I think ultimately that's what that's about, is the trust that it's a quality material that's been made the right way.
With this building this new IP and creating this product, how have you leveraged the resources out there in the Canadian ecosystem? What has been the most beneficial? Because there's a lot of push towards developing IP that is Canadian owned. So would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think I've been really fortunate to have been able to avail myself of so many accelerators, mentor programs. Um, and I think that's one of the benefits of going in not knowing anything, that I just was a sponge and took any opportunity I could to learn and work with, really smart people in different domains, from CDL to Mars, here District 3, and working with Communitech, which was also an amazing experience at the end of last year. And I do think, I mean, they're not all programs specifically for creating intellectual property, but certainly for building companies in Canada, which I think is really important. But building internationally facing companies that can grow globally, which I think is even more important to show that we can build here, but take over the world with our technology, which has been done with amazing companies. But this is definitely a niche that really hasn't necessarily seen that kind of outward growth just yet.
I can totally understand that. Have you done any research or did you find any good grants that apply to your specific vertical ag tech?
Uh, this is a side note that hopefully you'll edit out, but how, I mean, I always try to keep it diplomatic, but I definitely have opinions of how opinionated should I be on this topic.
I mean, I always say you can be as opinionated as you want to be. I also, you said ag tech,
Yeah.
and it's funny because I always think like green tech, but it is ag tech, but it's also green tech.
It's all green
It's
tech.
all the things. It's as opinionated as you want to be, and then we can always trim stuff out if you don't.
I would really appreciate if you gave us like the most direct answer. I'm just very curious to know what your thoughts are. We can always like edit it, but I would love to know that.
Okay. In terms of the grant landscape, I will be honest and say we've struggled. I think people, when they hear what we're doing, they see the value in it. They see how we are aligned with, deep needs in terms of sustainability, manufacturing, like I said, business building. But at the same time, there's because we're at the intersection of a lot of verticals, it's been hard to find a fit. I'll say that alignment. And also being a team of two, we don't really have the bandwidth to cast a wide net and apply for everything and just see what happens, because they're really intense, long, detailed applications. And even though I have tons and tons of material to draw from all the applications I do, it's just the time, effort, and ROI has just never really aligned. And we do often get the response, love what you're doing, this is super cool, don't know how to help you, or it's just out of our scope. And so we have bootstrapped with just kind of nibbles here and there of funding, and it's made us move much slower than we would have liked to, and again just made it really hard to prove traction when there's certain low hanging fruit funding options that it's just been very difficult to get, and then sometimes that's a signal to investors, well, if you can't get this, then do people really believe in what you're doing? So yeah, it's been challenging.
I was going to say, well, you mentioned investors. Like, do you have to throw an AI thing in there now when you're pitching, or are you able to avoid that? Because I mean, I read an article, and I don't know if it was from Tech Week or something else, but it was every pitch in like Y Combinator now has to have, we're doing this with AI, even if it doesn't necessarily make sense.
That it might be the contrarian in me a little bit, but I'm not going to say refuse to do that. But at the same time, I don't. That doesn't align with what we're building and what our values are. I think AI obviously is an incredible tool. It's made humanity and technology make this big leap. But I just fundamentally believe that you cannot solve the physical problem of climate change with not physical solutions. And not that AI and physical solutions are antithetical, but um, just to add in an AI element just to get in front of people,
Yeah.
it's not going to work for us.
Just
It'll be very, very transparent
say large
that
language
we're
mycelium and
not
just
an AI
pretend like
company.
that.
Yeah. And not to say there aren't fungi companies using mycelium, but they're using it to identify or understand what they can do. And we will use, AI and machine learning, I'm sure, when we're automating, because we need to
Oh yeah.
um, observe the mycelial growth. We need to adapt to changing conditions. There's no better way to do that than AI, but it's not what our company is, and it's not how we're going to build it. It's purely a tool, and I will definitely, be an evangelist for that. Purely a tool, not a way to
I
bring value, like build value in a company.
I'm so happy with your answer, Stephanie, because so many founders right now are just using AI as a buzzword to, get attention. And I'm so happy that, you're like, this is maybe not, we're not letting AI in right now because it's not a requirement for our product, but in the future, we're open to. I think that this is possibly the right way to do it.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool when it's applied.
Purely a tool.
Yeah, it's great.
I can for sure see, like, if they start recording, they must be recording like data of how their mushrooms are growing, and maybe they can use that and layer AI on top of it to make it more efficient. But this is for future. This was just going on in my head, so I just wanted to bring it out so that it might spark some ideas.
I love it. Well, it's a good note to end on. This has been an awesome conversation. I learned more, and like we've spoken before because we did a pre-call. I've heard you speak in person. I've read a bunch of articles. Mohammed's read a bunch of articles, and I still learn something new. So that's always amazing.
Awesome. Well, I do hope to bring value, and also just evangelize on how incredible, fungi is, and how, how much of a privilege it is for me to be able to participate in innovation and choose my own path, because I know a lot of people don't do that. And I think that maybe that's what I always mentioned, that it is still a place of privilege to not have to just get a job and do something you hate for your whole life, or maybe you don't hate it, but maybe there's always something more. And I think it's been really special, despite the challenges and the tears and the deep worry, that we're able to try. And I think that's super cool. And so I always like to acknowledge that despite the challenges, it's always been such an amazing experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you very
so
much,
for having
Stephanie.
me.
It's a pleasure getting to know your story and what you're building. I'm rooting for you. Kill it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So that was an amazing conversation. That was a really good first podcast for you too. I was surprised it was your first podcast.
Thank you very much. I just enjoy conversations with founders and really understanding, why they're building something and what got their attention. And these people are very, very driven, and they have some insights into the world or specific verticals that we don't. So it's always a pleasure having conversation and learning from them. So today I learned a lot of things new about mushrooms.
I was going to say, and like your day job is learning about startups. So tell me a little bit about what you do here at Communitech.
Yeah, of course. So I am a founder success manager at Communitech. I have a portfolio of companies who I help figure out early stage business problems, as well as help them find the right resources that they could take advantage of, be it offered by Communitech, government, like different partners that we have. So my job, in short, is helping founders be successful, which is very, very satisfying to my soul.
Now, what's your background in that?
Oh, yeah. I'm an engineer. I graduated from Waterloo. From there, I went from engineering to sales, and then I started my company. I scaled that company and sold that company. I also was selected for Next Canada or Next 36 program. And then I'm an entrepreneur at heart, engineer by education, and I would say I'm a salesman by profession. I enjoy teaching my founders how to sell, how to find their first customers, how to extract those words that they need to use to sell to their first customers. It's quite rewarding when I see my founders win at that.
Yeah, it's because people buy from people, right? And
100%.
And founders can be the best salespeople, and they know how to sell their product, right?
100%. And then big organizations, come down to decisions that humans are making. If you can appeal to their human side, there is a very high possibility you can win the deal if you understand that. Like, totally agree with the fact that humans buy from humans, not from organizations.
Yeah. Well, if you want to connect with Mohammed on LinkedIn, we'll have his link in the bio. But if you want to connect with Communitech and Mohammed and learn more about what Communitech can offer founders to help them start, grow, and succeed, you can visit communitech.ca or join the conversation on social media, LinkedIn and X and Instagram and all those things. It's all the same one. It's at Communitech on all of their major social media platforms. You can find this podcast where you're listening right now. Maybe Spotify, maybe Apple, who knows? It's also on Audible.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no one listens over there. I look at the numbers. I don't get it.
I just use Audible to listen to books.
I know.
So
I didn't know you could
they
listen
had
to podcasts. And then it was just like one day, like, you want to submit to Audible, I'll do it. It's on YouTube as well.
Wow.
Because then Google got rid of Google Podcasts and now it's YouTube, which is good and bad for a lot of reasons. Anyways, you can follow along with those. As always, if you have ideas or you want to be on the podcast or anything like that, you can always just drop us a note on social media and we'll get back to you. Thank you again for listening. I'm Alex Kinsella.
I'm Ahmed Kamla. Thank you very much, guys.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.